Good day, students. Compliment of the new year. Welcome to the English 11 Module 1 presentation. As we know, this presentation, it covers our 3 examination, which is the one that we are going to write May, June, in August, and the supplementary in November. So I always advise you, don't pinpoint when you are studying. Read everything which is covered in the presentation and make sure that you are also familiar with your content of your study guide. Thank you. Let's start with our presentation. This slide is about my contact details. My name, I'm Gesias Uwanga. This is my cell phone number, which you can contact me after hours. After hours, I mean after 5, and also during the weekend. If it's urgent, you can text me anytime during the day, but it's not guaranteed that I'll come to you immediately. So I'll just come back to you when I get time. That is my email address. You can also contact me on my email address. I always advise it's better to text instead of calling. So when you text, of course, once I get time, I'll come back to you. But if you call and I did not pick up, it will be a bit difficult for me to come back to you because I don't know who was calling. I don't have your number that I will know that this is one of my students. All right. There are materials that are prescribed for this subject. I hope by now all of you have acquired this, the book which is written by Latrin and Pincus. It's more on literature part. So the literature part that we cannot get in from our study guide, the content of this of that is in this book. So I advise every student to have it when we are preparing for examinations. And now the study guide, this one I know it's with you in your soft copy, and if you don't have it, just contact our office. They will advise you how to get it. And the last one is now the one which is written by Thompson. This one is about the teaching methods, the English teaching methods. Most of the questions that you are meeting in your assignments or perhaps in previous exams, question papers, and they are about teaching methods. So this book will guide you on how to handle those questions. All right. Dear students, at the very beginning of our presentation, I want to take you through our study guide. Not everything is touched under this section, but I'll make sure that the critical parts are covered, and then I'll break it down for you. The first part, there are 2 forms of language. When we are studying English or specific other languages too, there are 2 forms of language. What are these 2 forms of language? 1, there is a formal one and informal one. There are 2 forms of language which are now formal and informal. Under informal language, there are also some other subsections that are related now to this one, which is informal language. One of them is emotive language. And under emotive language is where we have subjective and the other parts. Okay, let's talk about What is emotive language? Emotive language, no, understand this, that emotive language, it's an informal language. Now, what is it? Let's understand what is this now. What is an emotive language? Emotive language is an example of informal language. It can be either subjective, objective, fact, or opinion, denotation or connotation, bias or prejudice. So these terms are under informal language, under the subsection emotive language. You must find out the meaning, be able to define this subjective, objective, and others. Be able to define them. Read, they are in your study guide. Read them, understand them, know the difference between them, and be able to express this meaning of this one in your own idea. Okay. Now, I have just picked out some for an example, because I know everything is in your study guide. I just picked some just to demonstrate some examples for you, but other details you will find them in your study guide. Subjective. This one, the subjective part, this one is just a personal idea. It can be one side. It's just my opinion, my point of view. Let me say, if I say, I think she's clever than other classmate. So that one is just my idea. It not necessarily that she's clever. Maybe the other person who is seeing a different picture. That one is just my own idea. So that type of idea is what we call is subjective. Okay? The rest, go find out, go read and understand them, and know the difference between all these ones. All right. In our papers, when I'm saying papers, I mean our exam papers. The first section, if you are familiar with it, it's just the same as the way the paper is structured is just the same as your assignment paper. The way the question paper examination paper will be structured, it will be exactly the same. Not the same questions, but the way it is structured. The first part, it's always about definitions. I will always ask you to define some terms. So there are some common terms in this, the critical, let me say, the main terms in our subject that I have highlighted here. But it's not to say that these are the terms that will be the examination. But I stress that please try to understand this term, know how to define them, understand them in a really a situation, in a really context that you can be able to apply them also in your class when you are teaching. There are these basic area of language skills which most children acquire before entering schools. So these are the phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, etc. Know what these terms mean. Know how to define them. Okay. They are very, very critical in our model. There are some examples in your study guide, but you can research more for your detailed understanding. Now the next part is the importance of being proficient in English. This was one of our assignment question also. It was in our assignment, I have realized that most of you have answered the question very well, let me say so, but some of you spend a lot of space in defining what is proficiency. You will spend a lot of space. Now, when it comes to the marks are coming from the points that you have indicated on the importance, because the question is asking the importance of being proficient in English in Namibia. Make sure that even you did not define, go straight to the points just for the sake of the space. It's just okay. But if you define definition here, it will not give you marks. Go straight to the point and answer the question so that you can know that you have covered everything that you're supposed to cover in the provided space. So these are some points that in Namibia, English is an official language. Everybody knows that. Every document, every office, everywhere you go, the communication medium of communication there is English. It's a requirement at the university when you are being admitted there. So it's one of the requirements that you should have a certain symbol in English. Okay, it's also a medium of instruction in our school and so forth. Make sure that you have enough points, that is not enough for the marks that are covered, that are given there, that are indicated there. Don't spend much time on the definition. Okay, now we come to this social, cognitive and linguistic factor that contribute to the language development. These are the factors that contribute to the development of the language of the children. When a child learning to speak or learning to communicate in a certain language, either in writing or speaking, so there are some factors that contribute, either speed up or decrease the development of the language. These are the three factors. They are three. There is social, cognitive, and linguistic. These are the factors. If the question is asking you one of these, how perhaps cognitive contribute to the language development of the child, you do not need now to mention all of them, three of them. Focus on the one which is indicated there, with the one which is given there. If the question is asking cognitive, just talk about the cognitive one. If it's social, then focus on social one. Don't bring in others. Okay, we have these three factors. Now let's look at social as an example. Social factor, I like the way you define this one. You know which, when we are referring to social factors, which are they, but the marks comes on how it contribute to the development of the language of the child. Okay, social factors, it's the environment where the child lives in. Perhaps it could be home, basically, or school. Yes, the environment where the child lives in. When now we are in our environment now, let me say it's at home. The way we communicate, the way we interact with our children, speed up or the language, the way they learn the language. If we do not, maybe we are just in the house and everybody just in their devices and there is no communication, there is no talking in the house. These children who have fewer vocabulary, they will not have much of the language. They will not learn a lot. Because there is no medium of learning in the house. But if you are talking to the children every day and have a conversation with our children now and then, so they are picking up a lot of words, a lot of vocabulary from our conversations with them, and their language also increase. That is what we mean by social affector. It's just more about how we interact, the way we exchange words with our kids, the way we talk to our kids. Do we read to them, or maybe sometimes we read story to them, or they ask questions, just the way we interact. This is the social factor. It could be home now, it could be maybe when they are playing with other kids in the street, or when they are in the church and so forth. As long as there is a interaction, the child is learning, and that one is in a social environment. So as I said, let's learn to answer the questions. If you know the question is saying why or how, if you have to define, maybe you just want to give me the background of the term, don't spend much, don't say much. You find out the question is about why, how this one is contributing to the development of the child, and you find the person, half a page is just a definition of what is social affector, and the question is not about that. Then of course you will get less marks on that, because the space will not be able to cover the definition and the why part. So make sure that always you understand the question, you read the question and understand it, and answer it the way it being asked. All right. Now, if you are an English teacher, so you know that in our classes, our learners like stories, either being told by their teacher in the class, or maybe at home, if it's now at home, or being read, or being by others, teachers and so forth. But the crucial part here is that kids or children likes stories. Okay, now let's talk about this. How perhaps questions around this part, questions can come in different from a different perspective. It can come and ask you to explain how you can use a story now to teach, perhaps reading or new words to your learners. How, if this the question comes that way, I want to see you now taking me through your journey, how you should do that. Yes, different students answer the question different way, but what is critical here is that make sure that you cover what the question is saying. Make sure that you tell me how you do it. Okay. And again, under this one, a question can also come and say, what are the benefits? Now, if children like stories, what benefits that children get from stories being read to them, or maybe when they are reading stories, now what are they learning from there? We have some tips in our study guide, but you can also go further. If you're an English teacher, you know a lot. What do children get from this? Sometimes you can say their imagination grow, and they learn also. Maybe I like saying this, when these stories now, maybe the stories about a certain child who was stuck somewhere, and the story goes on, and they tell how that child managed to get out of that problem. Yes, these kids know now how to solve problem just from a story that well, maybe okay, this is the way. If I'm stuck here and this is the other child did, when the child find him or herself in the same situation, she might try what she read. That is the benefit, some of the benefits that children get from a story being read to them. There are a lot. When you meet those type of questions, always read your question very well, understand it, and approach it from the right angle. And the critical part, check the marks. It doesn't say that if now you read a lot and you research and you have a lot of information about the question, and the question is just 5 marks. Now you have to write all the 7 pages just about that question, and it's just 5. Always check, you read your question properly and you check your marks and make sure that the information that we are giving, it's enough for the marks that are indicated. All right. Different ways that we use to make our learners love reading. Reading it's very important in our school. You cannot do anything. Children cannot be able to do anything in class if they don't know how to read. The examination questions, they have to read and understand them for them to be able to answer. Everything is about reading in school. Now, how can we develop this culture of reading in our children? In some schools, you can mention readathon. There are those programs that about readathon that the school embark upon, and then children go to the library, they borrow books and sit in the class, read, exchange what they have read, and so forth. So those are type of culture that we can put in place for the children to develop this culture of reading in our children. There are a lot. Here are some tips that I have just indicated for you in these slides, but you can go further and have more. There are a lot. Just imagine what you do at your school. Some people have afternoon classes, or some people have they invite people, might be the very important people, the famous people in their area, and comes in and reads stories to the learners and all those type of things. So that one is just another form of instilling this culture of reading in our children or in our learners. Okay. Every teacher in school, every teacher in every school in class, there are ways. You cannot teach a class where learners cannot listen to you, cannot behave in the class. There is a certain way that you do to maintain order in your class. What is that you do? What do you do to maintain order in your class? Some people misfire this question. You will find, and I have just picked it up in most of you, that the person who will say, will give you the class rules. Yes, class rules is one of them, but you cannot say for you to maintain order in your class as a teacher, as an English teacher. You would be just having those class, don't eat in the class, don't sleep in the class, don't throw papers, don't go to the bathroom without asking teacher, those are class rules. Class rule is one of them, but you don't have to take me through the class rules. Class rules are just class rules, and is one, you rather say, I will have the class rules. I'll have class captain in the class. There will be a class captain in our class. Don't mention the class rules are not ways. They are the class rule, but not one by one that you say, one by one, this is how I will maintain order in my class. What is happening in your class? Maybe your class is a grade 7. It's not the same way that you have to maintain order in grade 1. They differ according to the learner's behavior. So I want to see, under this question, I want to see the approaches that you put in place to maintain order in your class. Where one of them is class, you form up class rules with the learners, and maybe you read those class rules every day, and there will be a clear consequence on what will be done if the learner break one of those class rules. Maybe you call in the parents if the child does not want to behave, and all those type of things is what I want to see. But don't eat the gums in the class. Don't just those don't. No, tell me, take me through the approach, including the class rules. Right. I hope you get my case here. Thank you. We proceed. Spelling, which is part of writing. Spelling it's a problem, especially to the young ones. Not the young ones. Let me say, even the bigger ones, the grade 7, the grade 5, the grade 6. Spelling, if you are reading their essays, you find they have the idea is right, the idea is correct, but the spelling is a problem. That's where most of them lose a lot of marks, the student then, or the learners. How, as you are a teacher graduated from IOL, how do you assist these learners to know how to spell? How can you make them the best spellers? That is what I want to hear from you. There are some tips in our guide, and you can search more, or perhaps you can take from your experience, teaching experience. What are those strategies that you put in place to make your learners best spellers? I just have some tips here, and I said these are my ideas, and I know you have the better one than this one. Reading. The more you read, the more you become a better speller, because you are now exposed to different words. You see them every now and then, and they will be stuck in your mind. And once you see or you are writing, you will be also having enough vocabulary from reading, and you will know also how to spell it, because you see it every day through your reading. You can also make it fun. You can also have fun game in your class where the children learn how to spell through the spelling games. There are some other activities that you can do with your learners in your class that really help learners to become best spellers. Okay, those are the things that I want you to outline for me once you meet that type of question in your paper. Just to take us through how you should do that, or how do you do it in your class. Yes, this here I want not really the activity that you do in your class, but just to outline the approaches that you can use to teach your learners to become best spellers. Your English is more about the 4 skills. Once our learners master those 4 skills, they know how to write, they are confident in speaking, they are good listeners, they can write better, or can I say they can write good, then of course they can progress in their education successfully. Now here, there are ways that can be used to create confidence in learners speaking. I cannot just say in learners. This one is speaking fear. It's in most of human being. Okay, but it's not. It shouldn't be part of us. It should be eliminated from our feeling. In our classes now as teachers, we should be already preparing our learners to become best speakers, speak with confidence, either at school or in their social community. How should we do it? Yeah, what I have picked up when I ask these questions a few times, student, you like repeating points. If you say use only English in your classroom, yes, it's fine. It's a brilliant statement. And again, the second point, you say use English everywhere. This everywhere include now the classroom. Are you waiting now for the tutor to give you a point on the second one if it's just a repetition of the first one? Make sure that you do not repeat what you have said already. All right. The more you talk, the more you speak, the more you build up your confidence in speaking. That is a strong point when it comes on a way of creating confidence in learners when it comes to speaking. Let's have more session of speak. Let's talk to our children, our learners, in English language in the class. Okay, you can come up with a rule that there is no mother tongue in our English class. Of course, you know learners who speak their mother tongue, especially these that are just being introduced to English, but you know they will try their best to put words together in English, and then that is the way that they will now become confident in speaking the language. Find out more points on how to create learners speaking confidence in English. Okay, you can have some debate. It's one of the key point also when it comes to speaking. Debate really develop the speaking confidence in learners and others. Yes, that is how this section is more about. There are now some basic area of language skills which most children acquire when they enter school. We already spoke about this. So you must understand them, be able to define them, and very critical, have examples. Have examples always when it comes to definitions. When it comes to definitions, have examples always to demonstrate to me that you understand what you have just defined. Communicative language approach. Communicative language approach teaching. This is an approach of teaching where really life situations are being demonstrated. I like defining it. If you know what learner-centered education is, or learner-centered approach is in a teaching method, it's not far. Learner teaching approach and the communicative language approach, it's not far from each other. They almost use the same technique. This one is in language, where the teacher have now to bring students or learners to the really life situations that they experience in everyday life. Maybe if your most of your new words, you are teaching new words, and most of your new words that you are teaching that day, it's about farming. Let me say so. In this situation, you can perhaps go to the garden. If you are an English teacher, you are not an agriculture culture teacher. You go to the garden, you learn your lesson. You conduct your lesson from there, because that is where most of the farming equipment and other things that are part of farming that are there. So when you are teaching about maybe plants, you are touching plants are there. You are talking about sand is there. So this is what we call communicative language approach, where the really life situation is being involved in. Okay. These are common features of standard language. There is a standard language, and these are the common features of the standard language. Know them. They continue from the previous slide to this one. This is now the importance of being proficient. We talked about what is proficiency. This is now why it is critical to be proficient in English in Namibia. We plan our lesson as teachers. We plan our lessons. And there are some terms, or let me say lesson formats, with its terms. Know what are those terms. In the book, which is written by Thompson, there are now section that is talking about this lesson planning formats. Know what is it. Lesson plan format consists of different structures. Know the structure of the lesson plan. Of course, I will not ask you to plan a lesson in the examination, but I'll ask you the terms like accommodation. When we are talking about accommodation in the lesson plan, what does it says, and what maybe should you do under that term. All right. The learning errors. How can it be used to improve learning? As we are marking our learners' books, apart from giving those crosses that we give to learners and make them disappoint them with them, there are some benefits that we can get from them. Mention those benefits that we can use these learning errors to improve our teaching and the learning of the children. So here are some points, but there are more in your study guides. Go read under that heading and be able to understand it and be able to attack the question in your examination from different angles. The debate I have just mentioned is one of the thing that the strategy that you can use to teach speaking skill. So here are the benefit of the debate. Know the benefit, know what a debate is, and the benefit that one can get from using this strategy in the class is one of the strategy that can improve speaking skill in our learners. The characteristics of a good listener, what are those? Know what are when we are listening to a speaker, what should you do and what shouldn't you do or shouldn't do. The characteristics of a good listener, know them. And these are the basic frameworks also for listening. All these slides are about listening. The basic framework of listening, understand them. They continue. The importance of authentic materials. The authentic materials, these are the really objects, really things that we bring to class when you are teaching. Instead of come and teach and you are just saying things, theories, maybe you are teaching about, you can, things like television, radios, really things that we are bringing to the class, and then learners will experience it, that they meet in their really life. Those are the authentic materials that what we are talking about. Okay, what is the importance of now using them? Don't define the term. I already said, go straight to the question. If it's saying the importance, go straight and give the importance of using those authentic materials. Okay, dear students, as I said, this presentation covers the 3 examinations, those that are going to sit in May, June, or in August and November. It doesn't say that this question or this part or this section appear in May or August. It's all for all the examination. Go study your study guide. I advise first study your study guide, understand, read it, and understand it, and come to the presentation. Read what is being said in the presentation, and understand everything which is being indicated in there. Then from there you can say that you are ready for the examination. It's for both examinations. Read everything. Don't pinpoint. Thank you. Let's end up here. Have a nice day, and you can contact me if there's something that you want to inquire. Thank you.